The scent of fresh pine mingled with the acrid smell of burnt coffee as I stood at the edge of my daughter's grave, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on my shoulders. The sun hung low in the gray sky, casting a muted light over the gathering of mourners, their faces a blend of grief and feigned sorrow. I watched as my granddaughter, Ava, clung to her mother's arm, her small frame trembling, not from the chill of the autumn air, but from the tremors of betrayal that rippled through our family like an unseen tide. It was supposed to be a day of mourning, a solemn occasion to remember a life cut short too soon. But as the pastor spoke words of comfort, I felt a different kind of death gnawing at the corners of my heart. A death of trust, a death of a bond one had nurtured for years. Ava, my sweet little girl, had forged my signature on her mother's will. A will that I had believed was a testament to our family's love and unity, now twisted into a tool of greed and desperation. I could see the glint of triumph in her eyes as she stood there, like a shadow of her mother, her smile a mask for the chaos lurking beneath the surface. I had raised her, taught her the importance of honesty and integrity, only to watch her throw it all away for a sum of money that would never fill the void left by her mother's absence. My heart ached not only for my daughter but for the innocent girl who had become an unwitting pawn in a game of avarice. As the ceremony dragged on, my mind drifted to the days long before this moment, to a time when life felt simpler. I had spent countless hours in my workshop, crafting small pieces of furniture, pouring my soul into each stroke of the chisel, each sanded edge. I had hoped to pass on that love of creation to my family, to Ava, but it seemed that the world had other plans. My thoughts darkened with the realization that the love I offered had been overshadowed by the lure of money, that the values I cherished were slipping through our fingers like grains of sand. The pastor's voice faded into the background as I wrestled with the pain of betrayal. How could she? How could my own flesh and blood stab me in the back so ruthlessly? I had always been the quiet one, the one who preferred to listen rather than speak, but I felt a fire igniting within me, a quiet rage that simmered beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to boil over. The weight of my decision loomed large, but I knew I could not act hastily. After the service, as the crowd dispersed, I lingered by the grave, the chill in the air a stark contrast to the heat of my anger. I could feel Ava's gaze on me, a mix of guilt and defiance. I found myself thinking of the conversations we had shared, the laughter that echoed through my home, and the dreams I had for her future. But those dreams lay shattered at my feet, replaced by a cold resolve. She believed she had won, that the money would shield her from the fallout of her actions. But she didn't know the depths of my resourcefulness, nor the hidden legacies that lay dormant, waiting for the right moment to awaken. I had spent years building something far more valuable than wealth, a network of support, a web of connections that could either bind her to her fate or free her from it. Back at home, the silence was deafening. I moved through the rooms, the shadows of memories clinging to the walls like old wallpaper. I could almost hear my daughter's laughter echoing in the corners, a bittersweet reminder of what we had lost. My heart ached not only for her but for the daughter I had raised, who now stood on the precipice of ruin. As I closed the door to the workshop, I felt a surge of determination. I would not be reduced to a mere spectator in this tragedy. I would reclaim my power, not through anger but through a calculated plan that would teach Ava the lessons I had tried to impart all these years. I would show her that actions have consequences, that greed could blind even the brightest of hearts. Days turned into weeks, and the funeral faded into a distant memory, but the fire within me burned brighter than ever. I began to investigate the depths of her betrayal, unearthing the truth behind the forged signature. I discovered the name of the corrupt notary she had colluded with, a man who thrived in the shadows, willing to sell his integrity for a quick buck. The more I learned, the more the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, and I felt a sense of purpose ignite within me. Ava thought she had escaped unscathed, but I was prepared to turn the tables. I would let her bask in her false victory for a while longer, allowing her to believe she had outsmarted me. But I was a patient man, and I had learned the art of waiting. The world may have seen me as weak, but beneath the surface, I was a storm brewing, gathering strength, waiting for the perfect moment to unleash my wrath. The day would come when she would realize that her actions had consequences far beyond mere money. I would teach her that the bonds of family were not to be broken for the sake of greed, and that true wealth lay not in possessions, but in honor and respect. I was ready to change my will, to ensure that when the time came, she would understand the lesson of dignity and the price of betrayal. The journey towards retribution had begun, and with each passing day, I felt my resolve grow stronger. The chill of the autumn wind cut through me like a knife as I stood beside my daughter's grave, the freshly turned earth still dark and damp, a stark reminder of my loss. The funeral was a haze of muted colors and muffled sobs, a surreal blend of grief and betrayal. I could still hear the sound of the priest's voice droning on, a distant echo as I replayed the moment when I learned of Ava's treachery. The scent of decaying leaves filled the air, mingling with the sharp tang of fresh-cut flowers, a cruel juxtaposition of life and death that mirrored my own internal conflict. "Ava?" I whispered, her name tasting bitter on my tongue. The girl I had once cradled in my arms now stood before me as a stranger, her eyes glinting with ambition, her heart seemingly consumed by greed. The sweetest memories of her childhood, filled with laughter and warmth, had been tainted by this act of betrayal. She had forged my signature, a crime that would shatter the fragile bonds of our family, and I could feel the weight of that betrayal settling heavily upon my chest. As I turned away from the grave, my heart ached, not just for the loss of my daughter, but for the loss of innocence in Ava. I recalled the countless afternoons we spent together in my workshop, crafting wooden toys and building dreams. Her laughter would ring through the air as she painted the pieces with colors that danced like sunlight on water. But now, those memories felt like shackles, binding me to a past that was slipping away like grains of sand through my fingers. The guests were beginning to disperse, their hushed whispers drifting like shadows among the trees. I caught sight of Ava, her form a dark silhouette against the backdrop of the autumn sky. She stood with the notary, a man I had trusted, and together they shared a conspiratorial laugh, a sound that twisted my insides and ignited a fire within me. My resolve hardened. I would not let this betrayal go unanswered. I turned back toward my home, the place where my daughter had grown up, where echoes of her laughter still lingered like the scent of fresh pine. It was a sanctuary once filled with love, now a hollow shell echoing with loss. I stepped inside, the familiar creak of the floorboards beneath my feet a reminder of all the years that had passed. Yet the warmth felt absent, replaced instead by a suffocating chill. Sitting at my workbench, I ran my fingers over the smooth surface of the wood, the grains and knots beneath my fingertips telling stories of their own. This was where I had poured my heart and soul into creating something lasting. This was my legacy. But now, that legacy felt tainted, twisted by Ava's greed. I needed to reclaim what was mine, not just for myself but for my daughter's memory. I found myself rifling through old papers, searching for anything that might help me expose Ava's deceit. Each document I sifted through carried the weight of memories. Letters from my daughter, blueprints of toys we had built together, sketches of dreams that had once felt so tangible. And then I found it, a yellowed envelope containing the original will, a testament of love and integrity. My heart raced as I read it over and over, the words etched into my memory. To my beloved father, I leave my love and the rights to my creations. I clenched my jaw, fury bubbling beneath the surface. I wouldn't let Ava walk away with what wasn't hers. She believed she had one, but I would make sure she understood the value of honor and respect. I would expose her not just for her sake, but for the memory of my daughter. The next day, I found myself standing outside the notary's office, the building looming before me like a gray sentinel. The air was thick with tension, a storm brewing both inside and out. I hesitated for a moment, the weight of my resolve pressing heavily on my heart. But I couldn't turn back. I had to face this head-on, not just for the sake of my daughter's legacy but for my own peace of mind. As I stepped inside, the acrid smell of burnt coffee wafted through the air, mingling with the sterile scent of paper and ink. The notary, a man with slicked-back hair and a suit that seemed 2 sizes too large, looked up from his desk, surprise flickering across his face. "Mr. Thompson," he said, his voice smooth yet laced with a hint of nervousness. "What brings you here today?" I leaned forward, my voice low and steady. "We need to talk about Ava and that forged will." His eyes widened, and I could see the gears turning in his mind, calculating the potential fallout. "I don't know what you mean," he replied, feigning ignorance, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. "Oh, don't play coy with me," I snapped, my anger simmering just beneath the surface. "I know what she did, and I know you helped her. You think you can just walk away from this?" He shifted in his seat, and I could sense his unease like a palpable wave in the air. "It was a business decision, Mr. Thompson. Ava is a child of my daughter, and you have betrayed both of us." I interrupted, my voice rising. "You think this is about money? This is about family, about honor. And I will not let you or her tarnish my daughter's memory." His facade began to crack, and I saw a flicker of fear in his eyes. "You don't want to make enemies of powerful people, Mr. Thompson. Ava is a thief." I cut him off, my heart pounding with the adrenaline of confrontation. "And you, sir, are complicit in her betrayal. I will expose you both if it's the last thing I do." The tension in the room thickened, and I could almost hear the heartbeat of the world outside, a reminder that I was not alone in this fight. I could feel the resolve coursing through my veins, a determination that I had thought lost in the wake of my daughter's death. As I left the notary's office, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. The path ahead would be fraught with obstacles, but I was no longer a passive observer in this tragedy. I was a grandfather seeking justice, a man determined to reclaim what was rightfully his. I would let Ava think she had won, let her bask in the illusion of her ill-gotten gains. But I would be watching, planning, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. In the end, it would not be about wealth or possessions. It would be about teaching her the true value of family, honor, and the weight of betrayal. As I walked back to my workshop, the autumn leaves rustling beneath my feet, I couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing, one that would force Ava to confront the consequences of her actions. And as the winds howled through the trees, I could almost hear my daughter's voice, urging me to stand strong and fight for what was right. The battle had only just begun. The crisp autumn air stung my lungs as I stood at the edge of the graveyard, the weight of betrayal heavy in my chest. Leaves crunched beneath my feet, their fiery colors a stark contrast to the gray gloom that enveloped me. I glanced once more at my daughter's grave, the small headstone barely visible through the gathering shadows. The inscription, simple yet profound, spoke of a life filled with love and laughter, now reduced to a haunting echo in the silence of my heart. I had always thought of family as unbreakable, a sturdy oak tree whose roots intertwined deep into the earth. Now, I felt as if I were standing on the brittle branches, teetering on the edge of a precipice. Ava's betrayal was a jagged crack in that tree, one that threatened to split our family apart. She, the child I had watched grow, now stood as a symbol of greed and deceit, her innocence twisted beyond recognition. The chill of the wind whispered secrets I was desperate to uncover. I turned away from the grave, the ache of loss mingling with a simmering anger that pushed me forward. I needed answers, and I was not about to let a forged signature and a corrupt notary rob me of my daughter's legacy. As I made my way home, the familiar scent of damp earth and pine wrapped around me like a shroud. My workshop awaited, a sanctuary filled with echoes of laughter and the warmth of memories. Each tool hung in its place, each piece of wood waiting for my hands to turn it into something beautiful. It was here that I had poured my heart into creations that would outlast me, a testament to love and craftsmanship. But today, the tools felt foreign, the wood felt heavy with the weight of betrayal. I walked to my workbench, the surface cluttered with unfinished projects, remnants of a time when joy had flowed freely through my fingers. I reached for a chisel, its cold metal glinting in the dim light. It was a tool I had used countless times, but now it felt like a weapon, a means to carve out the truth from the darkness that surrounded me. I took a deep breath, my mind racing as I replayed the events of the past few days. Ava had always been ambitious, driven by a fierce desire to prove herself. But this was beyond ambition. It was a betrayal that cut deeper than any saw could carve. I thought of the notary, a man whose face had twisted with greed, his eyes glimmering with the thrill of corruption. He had been complicit in Ava's deceit, a willing participant in a scheme that sought to rob me of my daughter's memory. I had to confront him, to peel back the layers of lies and expose the truth. The thought filled me with a mix of dread and determination. I would not be silenced by the actions of a child turned viper. I owed it to my daughter to stand tall against the tide of betrayal that threatened to sweep me away. Night fell like a curtain, cloaking the world in shadows. I grabbed my coat and stepped outside, the air now tinged with the smell of approaching rain. The gravel of the path crunched underfoot as I made my way toward the notary's office, a small, nondescript building that blended into the landscape like a whisper hidden among shouts. As I approached, a sense of foreboding washed over me. The flickering light from the office windows cast long shadows, and I could almost feel the weight of secrets hanging in the air. I knocked firmly on the door, the sound echoing in the stillness of the night. Moments later, the door creaked open, revealing the notary, a balding man with a sly smile that oozed insincerity. "Mr. Thompson," he said, his voice smooth like oil. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" I stepped inside, the musty scent of old paper and faded ink enveloping me. "We need to talk," I said, my voice low and steady, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. He gestured for me to sit, his eyes darting to the floor as if he were trying to calculate my worth in this conversation. "I'm afraid I'm quite busy," he replied, the feigned politeness grating on my nerves. "Busy?" I echoed, unable to contain the rising anger. "You've been quite busy indeed, haven't you? Busy forging my signature, busy stealing my daughter's legacy." His smile faltered, and for a brief moment, I saw a flash of fear flicker across his face. "I assure you, Mr. Thompson, that's a serious accusation. There are legal repercussions for such claims." "Legal repercussions?" I scoffed, leaning forward. "You think I care about your legal jargon? This isn't just about money. It's about family honor. You've betrayed not just me but my daughter's memory as well." The notary shifted uncomfortably in his seat, the veneer of confidence beginning to crack. "You have no proof," he countered, his voice now laced with uncertainty. "The will is a legal document, and your signature was witnessed." I leaned back, allowing silence to stretch between us, thick and suffocating. "Witnessed by whom? By you? A fox in the henhouse." The words dripped with contempt, and I could see the realization dawning on him. The walls were closing in. "Listen," he said, his tone shifting to one of desperation. "We can work something out. Perhaps a settlement? You don't want to make this public." "Public," I repeated, my voice a steely whisper. "I want the truth to come to light. I want everyone to know what you've done. I'll expose you and you'll lose more than just a few clients. You'll lose everything." His eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape route that wasn't there. "You're making a grave mistake," he warned, though the quiver in his voice betrayed his bravado. "Perhaps," I replied, rising to my feet, "but I'm done being the passive observer in this tragedy. You've made your choices, and now it's time I made mine. I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. You can't just walk away from this. There are consequences. I paused, glancing back at him, the fury simmering just beneath the surface. Yes, there will be consequences, but they won't come from me. They will come from the truth. And the truth has a way of finding those who hide in the dark. With those words hanging in the air, I stepped out of the office, the night closing around me like a cloak. The rain began to fall, a soft patter against the pavement, washing away the remnants of my despair. I felt lighter, the burden of silence lifting as I resolved to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. As I walked home, the scent of wet earth filled my nostrils, mingling with the fresh promise of change. This was only the beginning. I would not let my daughter's legacy be tarnished by greed and betrayal. I would fight for her, for our family, and for the honor that had been so carelessly disregarded. The storm within me raged on, but now it was fueled by a sense of purpose. I would not be defeated. I would reclaim what was rightfully mine, and in doing so, perhaps teach Ava the lesson she so desperately needed to learn. Family was more than blood. It was trust, love, and the unbreakable bonds that intertwined our lives. As I stepped into my workshop, the rain drumming a steady rhythm on the roof, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. The tools lay waiting, and soon, I would begin to carve out a new legacy, one built on truth, integrity, and the enduring love that even betrayal could not extinguish. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves as I stood at the edge of my daughter's grave, the weight of betrayal heavy upon my chest. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that danced across the headstones like ghosts of memories past. I could almost hear my daughter's laughter, echoing in the breeze, a reminder of the love that had once filled our lives. But that laughter felt like a distant memory now, overshadowed by the bitter taste of Ava's deceit. I spent the night tossing and turning, haunted by the visions of my granddaughter. Her youthful face twisted in a smirk of triumph as she forged my signature, a grotesque mockery of our bond. I had raised her, nurtured her like the vibrant flowers in my garden, only to watch her bloom into a self-serving weed, choking the life out of everything we had built as a family. As dawn broke, casting a pale light through my bedroom window, I resolved to take action. I could no longer stand idly by, nursing my grief like a wound that refused to heal. I needed to confront Ava, to understand the depths of her betrayal. But more than that, I needed to reclaim my daughter's legacy, to ensure that her memory was not sullied by greed. I gathered my tools and stepped into my workshop, the familiar scent of wood shavings and varnish enveloping me like a warm embrace. This was my sanctuary, a place where I had spent countless hours crafting furniture, each piece a testament to the love I poured into my creations. Now it felt like a battleground, a space where I would forge my plan for retribution. As I rummaged through the drawers, my hands brushed against a set of chisels, their edges gleaming under the light. Each tool was a reminder of my craftsmanship, a symbol of the integrity I had instilled in my family. I couldn't let Ava tarnish that legacy. I needed to expose the truth, not just to her, but to everyone who had been blinded by her charm. The phone rang, its shrill tone cutting through the silence like a knife. I hesitated, a knot of dread tightening in my stomach. It was Ava. I let it ring, the weight of my decision becoming heavier by the second. Was I ready to face her? To confront the very person I had loved unconditionally? But I couldn't dodge the inevitable. I picked up the receiver, my heart racing as I forced the words from my lips. Ava, we need to talk. Her voice came through the line, bright and cheerful, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. Grandpa, I'm so glad you called. I was just thinking about you. How are you holding up? The dissonance between her words and my feelings was jarring. I'm not holding up well, Ava. Not after what you did. There was a brief silence, and I could almost hear her thoughts racing. What do you mean? I clenched my jaw, the anger boiling just beneath the surface. You forged my signature on your mother's will. You turned her memory into a tool for your greed. How could you do that? Panic laced her voice. I didn't mean to. I thought. Thought what? That I wouldn't notice? That I wouldn't care? My voice rose, filled with the anguish of betrayal. You took advantage of my grief, Ava. You manipulated me. I was just trying to secure my future, she exclaimed, defensiveness creeping into her tone. I thought it was what Mom would have wanted. The absurdity of her reasoning hit me like a slap. What your mother would have wanted was for you to honor her memory, not to exploit it. You've lost sight of what truly matters. You've become a stranger to me. Silence hung between us, thick and suffocating. I could hear her breathing, rapid and shallow. I didn't think it would come to this, she finally admitted, her voice trembling. I just wanted to make sure I was taken care of. The sheer selfishness of her words left me speechless. My daughter had worked hard her entire life to provide for Ava, to instill in her the values of love, respect, and integrity. For her to throw it all away for money was a betrayal I couldn't comprehend. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I need to see you, in person. We need to talk about this face to face. Okay, she replied, uncertainty lacing her voice. When? Tomorrow, at the old oak tree by the lake. Noon. The connection ended, and I felt a mixture of relief and dread wash over me. I had made the decision to confront her, but now the weight of that choice settled heavily on my shoulders. I was preparing for a battle, one that would test not just our relationship but the very fabric of our family. The next day, I arrived at the lake early, the crisp autumn air biting at my skin. I watched as the leaves danced above me, their brilliant reds and golds falling gently to the ground, a reminder of the inevitable cycle of life and death. The oak tree loomed large, its gnarled branches reaching out like arms ready to embrace or punish. I hoped it would stand witness to our confrontation, to the truth that needed to be laid bare. As the clock struck noon, I spotted Ava's figure in the distance, her silhouette framed against the shimmering water. She approached slowly, her expression a mixture of defiance and apprehension. My heart ached at the sight of her. This girl I had held in my arms as a baby, who had once filled my life with joy. Grandpa, she began, her voice tentative. I'm sorry for what I did. I thought I was doing the right thing. I shook my head, the pain of her words cutting deeper than I had anticipated. Ava, there is no justification for what you did. You betrayed your mother's memory for a chance at wealth. That's not who you are, or at least it shouldn't be. Her eyes narrowed, frustration flaring. You don't understand. I've struggled since Mom passed. I thought. Thought what? That lying and stealing would somehow make everything better. I interrupted, my voice rising again. You took advantage of my grief, of our family's grief. You think your mother would be proud of you. Tears glistened in her eyes, and for a moment, I saw the girl I once knew, the one who had looked up to me, who had shared her dreams and fears. I just wanted to feel secure. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. My heart softened for a moment, the memories of her childhood flooding back. But I couldn't let sentiment cloud my judgment. Security doesn't come from money, Ava. Comes from love, from trust. You shattered that trust. I'll fix it. I swear I'll make it right. Her voice was desperate, pleading. Fixing it isn't as simple as saying you're sorry. You need to face the consequences of your actions. You need to learn what integrity truly means. I took a step closer, my voice lowering. You need to understand that family is built on honesty, not deception. The wind rustled the leaves, and for a moment, silence enveloped us. I could see the conflict playing out in her eyes. Confusion, anger, regret. She was at a crossroads, and I hoped she would choose the path of redemption. I'll talk to the notary, she finally said. her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll tell him I made a mistake." I nodded, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within me. "That's a start. But it's not enough. You need to be honest with yourself, Ava. This is about more than just the will. It's about who you want to be." As I looked into her eyes, I saw the flicker of resolve beginning to spark. Maybe, just maybe, she could learn from this. Perhaps there was still a chance for her to understand the true meaning of family, one not built on greed, but on love and trust. The confrontation had not resolved everything, but it was a beginning, a chance for Ava to reclaim her integrity, to reconnect with the values her mother had instilled in her. And as I stood there beneath the old oak tree, I felt a glimmer of hope that she could emerge from this darkness stronger and wiser. As we walked back to the car, the autumn breeze whispered promises of change. The journey ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but I was determined to guide Ava, to help her navigate the treacherous waters of betrayal and redemption. Together, we would confront the corrupt notary and reclaim the legacy my daughter had left behind. Together, we would rebuild one truth at a time. The air was thick with tension as I returned home from my meeting with Ava by the lake. The autumn sun had begun to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced across the wooden floor of my workshop. The once inviting space, filled with the scent of fresh pine shavings and the warm glow of my favorite lamp, now felt cold and alien. It was as if the walls themselves mourned my daughter's absence, and the remnants of our shared memories hung heavy in the air, suffocating any flicker of warmth that dared to remain. I sank into my old oak chair, its surface worn smooth by years of my hands resting upon it, and stared out the window, where the vibrant colors of fall mirrored the turmoil inside me. The leaves were a riot of orange and crimson, a stunning reminder of nature's beauty, yet they were falling like my hopes for my granddaughter. The betrayal she had inflicted lay like a stone in my gut, and I found it difficult to breathe, as if each inhalation was a reminder of what I had lost. Not just my daughter, but the bond one thought I had with Ava. The confrontation had not gone as I had envisioned. I had hoped for clarity, for a moment of understanding that would bridge the chasm Ava had created with her greed. Yet, despite her tears and words of remorse, something in her eyes told a different story. I had seen flickers of defiance and entitlement, shadows lurking beneath her surface. The naive girl I once knew had morphed into someone I barely recognized, driven by the allure of wealth and the promise of a life free from the burdens of our family history. I dragged my fingers through my thinning hair, the weight of my thoughts pressing down on me like a physical force. The notary's face flashed before my mind. His smug smile, the way he had leaned back in his chair, a picture of complacency when I confronted him. It was clear he was complicit, but I had yet to gather enough evidence to expose him. I needed a plan, a way to unravel this web of deceit that had ensnared my family, and I needed to do it quickly. Suddenly, the workshop felt suffocating, and I stood, feeling the need to escape my own thoughts. I stepped outside, the crisp evening air biting at my skin, and made my way to the small garden my daughter had once tended with such care. The flowers were wilting now, their vibrancy fading, much like my spirit. I knelt beside the withering plants, recalling the days when laughter would echo through this space, when my daughter would dance barefoot among the blooms, her laughter like music that made even the most stubborn weeds relent. "Mom," I whispered into the empty garden, my heart aching with the loss. "What would you have done?" The wind rustled the remaining leaves, a soft sigh that felt like an answer. I imagined her gentle voice, urging me to fight for what was right, to stand firm against betrayal. It was a spark of resolve, igniting something deep within me. I could not let Ava's actions define our family legacy. I would not allow her to tarnish my daughter's memory with greed and deceit. I returned to my workshop, my mind racing with possibilities. I needed to gather evidence against the notary, and to do that, I would have to dig deeper. I thought back to the documents I had seen, the ones Ava had waved in my face at the lake. They were likely stored in the notary's office. What better place to hide the truth than behind a veneer of legal jargon? I could almost feel the heaviness of the papers in my hands, could almost taste the bitterness of betrayal that lingered in the air. The thought of sneaking into the notary's office made my heart race. It was a reckless idea, but desperation often breeds courage in the most unlikely of souls. I needed to know the extent of Ava's actions, to uncover the truth that lay hidden beneath layers of deceit. That night, I lay awake, the darkness wrapping around me like a shroud, my mind racing with plans and possibilities. I could see the notary's office in my mind's eye, the way it would look after hours, dark, quiet, and ripe for the plucking. I could envision myself in that space, rifling through drawers, searching for the documentation that would expose Ava and the notary alike. The next day dawned with a heavy, overcast sky, the air thick with impending rain. Felt fitting, as if the world outside mirrored my own internal storm. I moved through my morning routine mechanically, my thoughts consumed with the task ahead. By the time the afternoon arrived, I felt an electric charge coursing through my veins. Armed with a flashlight and a determination that bordered on desperation, I made my way to the notary's office. The streets were slick with rain, the scent of wet asphalt mingling with the earthy aroma of damp leaves. Each step felt heavy, as if the weight of my family's legacy was pressing down on my shoulders. As I approached the nondescript building, my heart pounded in my chest. I paused for a moment, the cool metal of the doorknob sending a shiver through me as I turned it slowly, pushing the door open with a creak that echoed in the empty hallway. I stepped inside, the musty smell of old paper and ink filling my nostrils, a reminder of the secrets that lay waiting for me. The office was dimly lit, the glow from a single desk lamp casting long shadows across the room. I could hear the faint ticking of a clock, each tick a reminder of the time slipping away. I crept through the maze of desks, my eyes scanning for signs of life. There was a palpable stillness, a heavy silence that hung in the air like a curtain waiting to fall. I made my way to the back room, the door slightly ajar. With one last look over my shoulder, I pushed it open and slipped inside. The room was filled with filing cabinets, each one a vault of secrets, but I knew I needed to focus on the will. I found the cabinet labeled Wills and Estates, my heart racing as I pulled it open. The musty smell of aged paper wafted up as I rifled through the files, each one a potential piece of evidence. My fingers trembled as I flipped through documents, feeling the weight of my family's history pressing down upon me. There it was, a file labeled with my daughter's name. I pulled it out, my heart racing as I opened it. The will was there, along with a series of notes and signatures. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks as I recognized the scrawl of my own name, the unmistakable evidence of Ava's treachery glaring back at me. A sudden noise from outside the room made me freeze, footsteps, heavy and deliberate. My heart thundered in my chest as I quickly hid the file beneath my jacket, the cold paper pressing against my skin like a reminder of the danger I was in. I held my breath, listening intently as the footsteps drew closer. "Who's there?" a voice called out, sharp and demanding. Time slowed as I weighed my options, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I could either confront whatever shadow lurked at the door or make a break for it. I chose the latter, slipping silently into the shadows of the filing room, pressing myself against the cold wall. The door creaked open, and a figure stepped inside, silhouetted by the dim light. It was the notary, his face a mask of irritation as he scanned the room. I could see the glint of something metallic in his hand, a keychain, perhaps. His eyes narrowed as he stepped further in, and I held my breath, praying he wouldn't notice the disturbance I had caused. "Damn it," he muttered, fidgeting with his keys as he began to rummage through the scattered papers on his desk. "Where is that girl? She should be here by now." I felt a surge of anger at the mention of Ava's name, but I swallowed it down, forcing myself to remain silent. This was my moment, my chance to reclaim what was rightfully mine. After what felt like an eternity, the notary finally turned, his back to me as he continued to search for whatever had him so agitated. I seized the opportunity, slipping quietly out of the room and back into the murky hallway. My pulse raced as I made my way back to the exit, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm in my chest. The door creaked open behind me, and I shot a glance back, my breath catching in my throat as I saw the notary step into the hallway, still oblivious to my presence. I slipped out the door, my heart racing as I dashed into the rain-soaked street, the cold rain mingling with the heat of my anger, my determination. As I walked away from the notary's office, the file clutched tightly against my chest, I felt an unfamiliar sense of purpose igniting within me. I was no longer just a grieving grandfather. I was a man on a mission. Ava's betrayal would not go unpunished, and I would ensure that the legacy of my daughter remained intact. With the weight of my discovery pressing down on me, I made my way home, the rain washing away the remnants of doubt that had lingered in my heart. I was ready to fight for my daughter's memory, ready to confront the darkness that had seeped into my family. As I stepped into the warmth of my workshop, the familiar scent of pine enveloped me, grounding me as I prepared for the battle that lay ahead. This was just the beginning, and I would not rest until the truth was revealed. I was determined to reclaim not just my daughter's legacy, but also the values that had once bound our family together, no matter the cost. The chill of the autumn air clung to my skin, a stark reminder of the emptiness that had settled within me. I had left the notary's office with a heavy heart, the weight of Ava's betrayal pressing down like a thick fog, obscuring my thoughts and clouding my vision. Each step I took on the cracked pavement felt like I was trudging through the remnants of a life I once cherished, my mind swirling with images of my daughter, her laughter echoing in the recesses of my memory. As I drove home, the leaves danced in the wind, bright oranges and fiery reds contrasting sharply with the drab gray of the sky. The world outside my window seemed so vibrantly alive, yet inside, I felt like a ghost wandering through the remnants of a long-forgotten past. I could hear the whispers of my daughter, urging me to forgive, to let this go. But betrayal gnawed at my insides like a relentless predator, hungry for retribution. Once home, I sank into the well-worn armchair in my workshop. The familiar scent of pine sawdust and varnish enveloped me, a comforting cocoon against the harsh reality outside. It was here, surrounded by the remnants of my craft and the echoes of laughter shared with my daughter and Ava, that I could truly reflect on what had happened. I glanced at the half-finished table in the corner, its surface marred by the passage of time, just like the bond one had with Ava. I picked up a piece of sandpaper, letting its coarse texture ground me in the moment. I had taught Ava how to shape wood, how to turn a rough block into something beautiful. I had instilled values of honesty and integrity in her. Yet here she was, using those very lessons to forge a weapon against me. My heart ached at the thought of the little girl who had once looked up to me, her eyes wide with admiration, now standing on the opposite side of a chasm that felt insurmountable. The notary's office had been a revelation, but I needed to confirm my suspicions about Ava's involvement. I had witnessed her despair at the funeral, the tears spilling down her cheeks as we stood by her mother's grave. Yet, beneath that facade, I sensed a flicker of something else, entitlement. Perhaps it was the way she had held her head high when she spoke about the inheritance, or the way her eyes had sparkled at the mention of the family estate. It was a realization that twisted the knife deeper into my heart. I took a deep breath, allowing the scent of fresh pine to soothe my frayed nerves. I could not confront Ava again without solid proof. I needed to gather evidence, to show her that her actions had consequences, and I had to do it carefully. The thought of confronting her again filled me with dread. What would I say? How could I reach the girl I had loved so fiercely? That night, I sat at my desk, the soft glow of a single lamp illuminating the remnants of my daughter's life, pictures of her smiling, her warmth radiating from the frames. I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was trapped in a nightmare, where the people I loved most had turned into shadows of their former selves, their intentions shrouded in darkness. I picked up a pen and opened my notebook, the pages yellowed and frayed, filled with sketches and memories. I began to jot down everything I knew about the notary, the dates of the meetings, the conversations I had overheard. I could almost hear my daughter's voice encouraging me, guiding me, as I meticulously crafted a timeline of Ava's deception. But as the hours passed, exhaustion weighed heavily on me, and the words blurred together. I closed my eyes, leaning back in my chair, letting the silence envelop me. Images of my daughter's smile flickered behind my eyelids, and I felt a pang of longing for simpler days when life had felt so full of promise. A sudden noise jolted me awake, a soft knock at the door. I straightened in my chair, my heart racing. Who could it be? I glanced at the clock. It was past midnight. As I approached the door, the air thickened with tension, my palms clammy against the cool brass handle. I opened the door just a crack, my heart thudding in my chest. Ava! I breathed, disbelief washing over me as I saw her standing there, her face pale, eyes wide and glossy like the surface of a still lake. "Grandpa, can I come in?" she whispered, the vulnerability in her voice striking a chord deep within me. Against my better judgment, I opened the door wider, allowing her to step inside. The familiar warmth of my home contrasted sharply with the chill in the air, but as she crossed the threshold, I felt a surge of conflicting emotions: love, anger, disappointment. "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. I needed to talk to you," she stammered, her hands trembling at her sides, the weight of her guilt palpable. "I've been thinking about everything, about Mom, about the will." I gestured for her to sit, my heart racing as I prepared for the confrontation I had been dreading. "You forged my signature, Ava. You turned your mother's legacy into a tool for greed. How could you?" Her face fell, tears spilling over like a dam bursting. "I didn't want to. I thought it would help us. I thought I could make everything right." "By stealing from me?" I shot back, my voice rising with the intensity of my emotions. "You're trying to justify your actions? You betrayed me, Ava, and more importantly, you betrayed your mother's memory." She flinched at the words, the sting of them evident on her face. I know I messed up, but I was scared. I thought I'd lose everything. I just wanted to feel like I belonged somewhere again." Her voice trembled, and for a moment, I saw a glimpse of the little girl who had once needed me for everything. I sighed, the anger dissipating like mist in the morning sun. "You are not your mother's legacy, Ava. You are a part of it, but you have to earn that right. You have to learn what it means to honor the people you love." The silence that followed was heavy, laden with the weight of unspoken words. I could see her struggling with her feelings, her brows furrowed in concentration, as if she were trying to piece together a puzzle that had no clear picture. "Can you forgive me?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper, her vulnerability laid bare before me. I felt a pang of something. Was it compassion? Perhaps it was the flicker of hope that somewhere in this storm of betrayal, there still existed a chance for redemption. But the path to forgiveness was fraught with challenges, and I was not ready to offer it so easily. "I can't forgive you yet, Ava," I said softly, my heart aching as I searched for the right words. "But I will help you understand what you've done. You need to face the consequences of your actions, and that starts with the notary." Her eyes widened, realization dawning on her. "You're going to report him?" "Yes," I replied firmly, the resolve within me hardening. "And I will make sure that you understand what it means to betray family. We can't let greed tear us apart, but you have to be willing to fight for your place in this family." She looked away, shame flooding her features, but I saw a flicker of determination ignite in her eyes. "I'll help you," "I'll do whatever it takes," she said, the sincerity in her voice surprising me. I nodded slowly, recognizing that perhaps this was the first step toward healing, not just for me but for both of us. The road ahead would not be easy, but if we could navigate this storm together, perhaps we could find a way back to each other. As the dawn began to break outside, painting the sky with hues of gold and pink, I felt a glimmer of hope, a fragile thread connecting us, woven through the fabric of love, loss, and the possibility of redemption. Together, we would face the notary, confront the shadows of betrayal, and begin the arduous journey toward reclaiming our family's legacy. The air was thick with unease as I stood beside Ava that afternoon, the sun dipping low in the autumn sky, casting long shadows over the graveyard. The colors of the leaves had shifted into deep oranges and browns, a vibrant tapestry of decay that mirrored my own feelings. Everything once beautiful now crumbling under the weight of betrayal. The scent of damp earth mingled with the crisp air, a reminder of life's inevitable cycle. I could almost hear my daughter's laughter echoing among the tombstones, a haunting melody that tugged at my heart. Ava shifted nervously beside me, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her coat. The remorse in her eyes, once a flicker of light that I had hoped to nurture back to life, now felt like a burden that pressed against my chest. I had agreed to help her confront the notary, but the path ahead felt fraught with uncertainty. Each step I took toward that confrontation was heavy with the weight of my daughter's memory and the promise of retribution. "Ava," I began, my voice barely above a whisper, "do you understand what you've done?" Her gaze fell to the ground, her shoulders slumping as if she bore the weight of the world. "I know, Grandpa. I messed up. I didn't think it would come to this. I thought I was protecting Mom's legacy." Protecting it? The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. "You tore it apart. You turned our family's love into a battlefield of greed." The words hung in the air, sharp and unforgiving. I could see the reflection of my anguish in her eyes, and for a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy. But sympathy was a fragile thing, easily shattered by the reality of what lay ahead. I had to be strong, not just for myself but for the memory of my daughter, who had entrusted both of us with her legacy. I just wanted to make things easier for myself. "For us," Ava said, her voice trembling. "I thought if I could just get the money, I could turn everything around. I didn't think you'd be this upset. I thought you'd understand." "Understand?" I echoed, incredulity washing over me like a cold wave. "How could I understand that you would betray your own blood? That you would forge my name as if it were nothing?" Ava looked up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I was scared. I thought if I didn't act fast, we'd lose everything. I didn't know what else to do. I thought you would help me fix it, not hate me." Hate was an easy word to throw around, but the truth was more complicated. I didn't hate Ava. I hated what she had done and what it revealed about her character. The girl who had once run into my arms with laughter and joy was now a stranger, a reflection of the greed that had seeped into our family's veins like poison. "I don't want to hate you, Ava," I said, my voice softer now, tinged with sorrow. "But you need to understand that trust, once broken, is like glass. It can be mended, but the scars will remain." She nodded, tears spilling over and tracing tracks down her cheeks. I felt a surge of compassion for her, a flicker of hope amidst the darkness. Perhaps there was still a chance for redemption, but it would require more than just remorse. It would demand action, accountability, and a willingness to confront the consequences of her choices. "Let's go see the notary," I said, my resolve hardening. "We can't just let this go. We need to make it right." The drive to the notary's office was steeped in an uncomfortable silence, the tension between us palpable. As the landscape blurred past, I was acutely aware of how much had changed between us. The warmth of shared memories felt like a distant echo, drowned out by the urgency of the present. I glanced sideways at Ava. She was staring out the window, her reflection a ghost of the girl I had once known. When we arrived, the notary's office loomed before us, a drab building that mirrored the darkness of our situation. I took a deep breath, the acrid scent of burnt coffee wafting through the door as I pushed it open. The interior was dimly lit, cluttered with piles of documents and the faint sound of a printer working tirelessly in the background. "Mr. Holloway will see you now," the receptionist said, her tone flat and disinterested, as if we were just another transaction in her day. As we approached the office, I felt my heart quicken, anticipation mingling with dread. This man, this corrupt notary, had played a crucial role in Ava's deceit, and I was determined to confront him. I would not allow my daughter's memory to be sullied further by the greed of those who should have been guardians of her legacy. "Mr. Holloway," I said, stepping into the office, my voice steady despite the turmoil within me. "We need to talk." He looked up, surprise flickering across his face, quickly replaced by a mask of professionalism. "Good afternoon, gentlemen. How can I assist you today?" I could feel Ava's tension beside me, her body stiff with apprehension. "We're here about the will," I said, my tone sharp as a knife. "The one you processed for my daughter, Sarah." A glimmer of recognition crossed his face, but he quickly masked it with indifference. "Ah, yes, a routine matter, I assure you. Everything was in order." "Everything was in order?" I spat, incredulous. "You know as well as I do that my signature was forged. You facilitated my granddaughter's deception." The color drained from Holloway's face, and for a moment, he looked vulnerable, like a deer caught in headlights. But just as quickly, he regained his composure, leaning back in his chair with feigned nonchalance. "That's a serious accusation, Mr. Thompson. I assure you I followed all legal protocols." Ava presented all documents correctly. "Don't play games with me," I said, my voice low and simmering with rage. "You know you had to have seen the discrepancies. You're not that incompetent." Ava shifted beside me, her eyes wide. I didn't want to involve you in this, but I can explain everything." "Explain?" I scoffed. "You think an explanation will undo the damage? You think he'll just let you off the hook because you're scared?" The notary cleared his throat, visibly uncomfortable. "Perhaps we can discuss this matter privately, away from accusations?" "There's nothing to discuss," I said firmly. "You will rectify this situation, or I will expose you for the fraud you are." "I have evidence." "Evidence?" he questioned, his voice trembling slightly. I pulled out the documents I had gathered, my heart racing as I laid them on his desk. "You think I wouldn't prepare? I've collected everything: emails, receipts, and witness statements. You will fix this, or I will take it to the authorities." A silence enveloped the room, thick and suffocating. The notary's eyes darted between the documents and my determined expression. I could see the wheels turning in his mind, the realization dawning upon him that he was not as untouchable as he had believed. "Let's not be hasty," he said, his voice a mixture of anxiety and arrogance. "Perhaps we can come to an arrangement." "There's no arrangement to be made," I replied, my voice steady. "You will do what's right, or I will see to it that you pay the price for your complicity in this betrayal." Ava remained silent, her gaze flickering between me and the notary, a mixture of fear and admiration in her eyes. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on us, the tension thickening the air. This was a turning point, a chance to reclaim our family's dignity and honor my daughter's memory. Holloway leaned forward, his facade cracking. "All right," he conceded, his voice trembling slightly. "Let's discuss how we can proceed without involving the authorities." I could feel the fire of determination surging within me, a fierce resolve that had been ignited by the injustices I had faced. This was not just about reclaiming what had been lost. It was about teaching Ava a lesson in responsibility and the true meaning of family. As we began to negotiate the terms, I glanced at Ava. Beneath the layers of betrayal lay a flicker of hope, a possibility of redemption. Together, we would navigate this storm and perhaps, just perhaps, emerge stronger on the other side. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was ready to fight for the family I had lost and the one I still had. The air was thick with tension as I sat in my workshop, the familiar scent of cedar shavings filling my nostrils. My tools lay scattered across the workbench, remnants of countless projects that had once brought me joy. Now, they sat like ghosts of a past life, overshadowed by the weight of betrayal that clung to me like the damp autumn chill seeping through the cracked window panes. I had confronted Mr. Holloway, the notary, and though I had uncovered the truth behind Ava's deception, the victory felt hollow. The gnawing feeling of anger and disappointment gnawed at me, festering alongside my grief for my daughter. I had expected Mr. Holloway to be a man of integrity, yet he had revealed himself as nothing more than a vulture, preying on the vulnerable. I could still see the smirk on his face as he casually dismissed the gravity of Ava's actions, as if the sanctity of my daughter's will was just another paperwork formality. It was a betrayal layered atop betrayal, a betrayal that seemed to seep into the very foundations of what I thought I knew about family and loyalty. The day of the funeral had been gray and foreboding, the sky weeping alongside us as we gathered to say goodbye to the woman who had given me so much. But now, as I sat in the dim light of my workshop, I felt a different kind of sadness. Ava was no longer the bright-eyed girl I had cherished. She had transformed into a shadow of greed and desperation. I had to confront her, but what would I say? How do you unearth a heart buried beneath layers of betrayal? As I pondered my next steps, my thoughts drifted to my daughter, her laughter echoing in my mind like a haunting melody. I remembered the way she had twirled in the living room, sunlight bouncing off her golden hair, her joy spilling into every corner of our home. I had raised her to be honest, to value integrity above all else. How had it come to this? Had I failed her? Had I failed Ava? A soft knock interrupted my reverie, the sound delicate yet insistent. I turned to the door, my heart racing as I braced myself for a confrontation. Ava stepped inside, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy, as if she had been crying. She looked smaller somehow, as though the weight of her choices had crushed her spirit. "Grandpa," she said, her voice a fragile whisper, like the rustle of dried leaves. "Can we talk?" I gestured for her to sit, my heart torn between anger and the lingering love I felt for her. "You forged my signature, Ava. You betrayed me, and you betrayed your mother's memory." She flinched at my words, her gaze dropping to the floor. "I know. I can't explain why I did it. I felt lost after Mom died. I thought I could fix things, make it all go away. By stealing from your own family?" I shot back, my voice rising. "You think that's the answer? You think that's what your mother would have wanted?" Tears welled in her eyes, and she wiped them away with the back of her hand. "I didn't think it would come to this. I thought I could take care of myself for once. I thought you'd understand." "Understand?" I echoed, disbelief coursing through me. "You think I would understand this? How do you expect me to trust you again?" She trembled, her hands clenching and unclenching in her lap. "I'm so sorry, Grandpa. I never meant to hurt you. I thought it would help me feel secure again, like when Mom was alive." Her words struck me like a hammer against stone. Ava was still that little girl who clung to my side, who sought comfort in my presence. But that girl had vanished, replaced by someone who had betrayed the very foundation of our family. My heart ached for her, but the betrayal ran deep, like a wound that refused to heal. "I loved your mother more than anything," I said quietly, my voice trembling. "She was my whole world, and now you've taken something from me that I can never get back. You've tainted her memory with your greed." Ava's face crumpled, and she let out a choked sob. "I know. I can't take it back. I didn't think it would hurt this much. I thought maybe if I had the money, I could start over." "Start over," I repeated, incredulity washing over me. You think money will fix this? You think it will replace your mother? I don't know, she cried, her voice rising. I just wanted to feel safe again. I wanted to believe that I could stand on my own 2 feet without relying on anyone, especially after losing Mom. I could see the shattered pieces of Ava's heart laid bare before me, each jagged edge reflecting her vulnerability. I wanted to reach out, to comfort her, to tell her that it was okay to feel lost, that grief sometimes twisted us into desperate shapes. But the betrayal hung heavy in the air between us, like a storm cloud threatening to burst. Have you even thought about what you're asking for? I said, my voice steadier now. You want me to forgive you? To just forget? No, she said, shaking her head vehemently. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want a chance to make things right. Please, Grandpa, let me show you I can change. I studied her, the desperation etched on her face, the way she clung to hope like a lifeline. It was a dangerous game, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to play it again. My heart battled against my mind, each side screaming for me to choose differently. But what would that choice entail? Could I really allow her back into my life, knowing the depths of her betrayal? Why should I trust you? I finally asked, letting the weight of my words settle in the silence between us. Because I love you, she said, her voice barely a whisper now, raw and trembling with emotion. And I loved Mom. I'm so sorry for what I did. I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. Just give me a chance. The room felt suffocating as I contemplated her words. I could feel the walls closing in around me, the memories of my daughter pressing against my heart, demanding justice for the wrongs that had been done. But there was also a flicker of something inside me, an ember of hope that perhaps Ava could learn from this, that she could grow beyond her mistakes. I need time, I replied, my voice softer, almost defeated. I need time to think about whether I can ever trust you again. Ava nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. I understand. I'll do whatever it takes to earn back your trust. Just please, don't give up on me. As she turned to leave, I felt a pang of something. Fear, perhaps, or maybe the strange tension of a bond beginning to mend. I had no idea what the future held for us, but as I watched her walk away, I realized that the path ahead would require both of us to face the consequences of our choices. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, their leaves swirling in a dance of orange and gold, a reminder that change was inevitable. I had to make a decision, not just for myself but for Ava, for the memory of my daughter. The stakes were higher than ever, and the weight of that choice settled heavily on my shoulders. As I returned to my workbench, I couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that this was only the beginning. The battle for my daughter's legacy was far from over, and the notary, that corrupt figure lurking in the shadows, still had his role to play in this unfolding drama. I would find a way to reclaim what was rightfully mine, to restore honor to my family, even if it meant confronting the demons of my past. And as I began to carve a new project from the wood before me, I felt a flicker of resolve ignite within me. I would not let Ava's mistakes define us. We would face this together, and perhaps, just perhaps, we could begin to heal the wounds that had torn our family apart. The leaves crunched beneath my feet like brittle bones as I paced the familiar gravel paths of the graveyard, the weight of my daughter's absence pressing down on my chest. The late autumn sun cast long shadows, painting the world in hues of gold and russet, a stark contrast to the grief swirling within me. I could still feel the cool dampness of the earth from the grave freshly dug for my daughter, her absence like a gaping wound that refused to heal. Ava had come to me, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, and for a moment, I had seen a flicker of the little girl who used to run into my workshop, her laughter a melody that filled the air. I want to make things right, Grandpa, she had said, her voice trembling as if the very act of speaking those words might shatter something fragile between us. But now, as the wind rustled through the trees, I was left with a cacophony of doubts. Could I truly believe her? I had spent the last few days in a haze, shuffling through the remnants of my daughter's life scattered throughout our home. Each photograph, each trinket, resonated with memories, yet they also echoed with betrayal. The pain of loss was compounded by Ava's actions, and it felt nearly insurmountable. I had given Ava my trust, and she had turned it to ash. As I wandered near the edge of the graveyard, the scent of damp earth and decay mingled in the air, a reminder of the cycle of life and death that I now found myself grappling with. I had promised myself I would confront the notary, the man who had facilitated Ava's deceit, and reclaim my daughter's legacy. I could no longer allow the betrayal to fester like an untreated wound. I returned home, my heart heavy with the resolve to confront this corrupt figure, but also burdened by the weight of my granddaughter's plea for forgiveness. I could still see her face, contorted in anguish, as she begged for a chance to make amends. Yet trust was a fragile thing, easily shattered, like glass slipping through fingers. The workshop door creaked open, and I stepped inside, inhaling the familiar scent of sawdust and varnish. The space was imbued with memories, the laughter of my daughter as we crafted together, the warmth of family gatherings. Now, however, it felt like a mausoleum, filled with echoes of what once was. I sat at the worn-out workbench, my fingers brushing over the tools I had used for decades. Each one was a remnant of my past, a connection to my daughter. I picked up the chisel, its surface cool against my palm, and let the memories wash over me, guiding my thoughts. How could I reconcile my love for Ava with the betrayal of her actions? The sunlight streamed through the dusty window, illuminating the motes dancing in the air, and I found myself contemplating the possibility of redemption. Could Ava truly change? Or was her remorse merely a reflection of her own guilt, a desperate attempt to erase the stain of her actions? My internal struggle was interrupted by a soft knock at the door. I looked up, my heart racing as I saw Ava standing there, her face pale, eyes red-rimmed. "Grandpa," she whispered, stepping inside as if the very act might shatter the fragile peace we had been teetering on. "What do you want, Ava?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "I came to talk," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please, just hear me out." I gestured toward the chair across from me, my heart a tumultuous sea of emotions as she sat down, her hands fidgeting nervously in her lap. The silence stretched between us like a chasm, filled with unspoken words and lingering resentment. "After Mom died," she began, her voice shaking, "I felt so lost. I didn't know how to cope. I just wanted to hold on to something, anything. By forging my signature?" I interrupted, the anger bubbling to the surface like a volcano threatening to erupt. "No, that's not what I meant," she replied, her voice rising slightly above her earlier tremor. I thought if I could just secure a future for myself, maybe it would help me cope with the loss. I didn't think it would hurt you. I didn't think it would come to this." Her words pierced through the fog of my anger, and I saw the raw pain in her eyes. "Ava, you don't understand. It's not just about the money. It's about trust, about love. You shattered that bond when you chose greed over family." Tears spilled down her cheeks, glistening in the afternoon light like dewdrops on a spider's web. "I know. I'm so sorry, Grandpa. I never wanted to hurt you. I was desperate." Desperation. The word hung in the air, a bitter reminder of the lengths we go to when our world crumbles around us. But I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that had taken root in my heart. "And what do you propose we do now?" I asked, my tone softer but laced with caution. "I want to help you," she said fervently, her eyes locking onto mine with a determination I hadn't seen before. "I want to make this right. I'll help you confront the notary. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this." Her words sparked a flicker of hope within me, a small ember fighting against the cold winds of betrayal. But could I truly trust her again? Could I allow myself to hope for reconciliation? The thought was both intoxicating and terrifying. Why should I believe you? I asked, my voice thick with emotion. You've already shown me your true colors. Because I'm willing to risk everything, she replied, her voice steadier now. I'll do whatever it takes to earn back your trust. I'll stand by you, I promise. As I looked into her eyes, I saw a mixture of fear and determination, the same qualities I had admired in her as a child. It was a reflection of my daughter in her, a ghost of the love that had once united us. The realization hit me like a tidal wave, crashing over the rocky shores of my heart. Perhaps there was a chance for redemption after all. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my decision. All right, Ava, we'll confront the notary together. But know this, if you betray me again, I won't give you another chance. Relief washed over her features, and she nodded, the tension easing from her shoulders. I promise, Grandpa, I won't let you down. As we forged a tentative alliance, I felt a flicker of hope blossoming in the depths of my heart. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but perhaps, just perhaps, it would lead us to a place of healing. The shadows of betrayal still lingered, but now, they were accompanied by the faint light of possibility. A chance for forgiveness, a chance to reclaim our family's legacy. And as we set forth together, I couldn't help but wonder if this journey would bind us closer or tear us further apart. Only time would tell, but for now we had each other, and that was a start.